Hey friends, today we are talking about the new Xperia 1 Mark V, a new mobile phone camera that is so good that you probably didn't even realize I was actually recording on it right now. So today we're gonna look at all of the different new features, the feel, the image sensor, all of that kind of stuff, and all the other little tools that make this such a good little device for content creators. Now, this video is sponsored by Xperia, so thank you to them for supporting the channel and let me trying out this device. Now, let's get into it. So this is how I've been filming this particular video. This is the little vlog monitor that Xperia's had for a little while now. It allows you to actually use the nicer and better cameras on a mobile device than the front-facing camera, which is still good, but you want the much nicer cameras and sensors up here, and that allows you to be able to see yourself and get all that information, framing, all that good stuff. Now, if you've never used an Xperia device before, there are a few things that are a little bit different that I definitely want to highlight here. The first of which is that this is legitimately made for content creation, for artists, for creatives, that kind of thing. So even on the hardware, things are built in to kind of facilitate that a little bit. The first thing being is we have an actual shutter here. So if you are holding your phone like this, you have the ability to actually half press a shutter to focus, as well as hold it down to take pictures. And also, if you just hold that button down, it will launch whichever app you want, whether it is the photography app or the videography app. Personally, I have it on the photo app, and it makes that whole process so much quicker. You may also notice that it's a little bit maybe taller than a typical phone in terms of aspect ratio. The screen is also a 4K OLED HDR display that has a 120 hertz refresh rate, and it also has a creator mode in terms of its calibration. So with that, you are getting correct colors and gammas and all of that good stuff. Something obviously you don't see in a lot of other devices nowadays is a headphone jack, which is really nice, as well as the ability to upgrade your storage because the SIM card slot here has a micro SD card port in it. So the nice thing is if you're using this for content creation, for photo, for video, any of that kind of stuff, you can just pop the micro SD card out and put it into your normal workflow, just like any other camera. Now, I think the most exciting thing for me out of this new phone is the new camera setup, and specifically on the 24mm, but we'll get back to that in a second. This features a 16mm wide angle lens, a 24mm lens, as well as an 85 to 125 lens. All of these can give you raw files as well as shoot 4K at 120 frames a second. But the new sensor on the 24mm camera is what's really pretty impressive here. Now, what's crazy is the new sensor technology that they put in this is probably something we're gonna see in future alpha cameras and stuff like that, because the way that they do this is they separate the photodiode and the photo transistor from being next to each other to being stacked on top of each other. There's a lot that goes into this, but basically it means that double the amount of light is actually hitting your pixels versus a traditional sensor, which gives you better dynamic range, better low light performance, all of that kind of stuff, which obviously us as photographers and filmmakers and things like that know is a really, really big deal. Now, what's crazy about this as well is it has a lot of this stuff that you see in the actual Sony alpha cameras on a mobile device. The preset looks in photo mode, which allows you to just get like a better looking JPEG straight out of the box. And the biggest deal out of this for any video content is their inclusion of s-cinetone. And if you don't know what s-cinetone is, it's their color science that comes from the Sony Venice cameras, which is, stuff that they've filmed full feature-length films on, that has gotten trickled down onto things like the FX6, the FX3, the Alpha 7S III, the Alpha 7 Mark IV, the Alpha 7R Mark V. So all of my Sony alpha cameras have this s-cinetone profile, which is something that if you aren't going to shoot in like a log profile or something like that for video, it just gives you a really, really good image right out of the bat. So everything that I filmed on this device for the last couple months has all been in s-cinetone, and it all looks really, really good. Even the intro that you saw that was filmed with this was filmed in s-cinetone and then has like just a slight color correction on it. And it looks pretty darn similar to my S-Log3 workflow on my FX3, which is pretty crazy considering this is a mobile device and that is a full frame cinema camera. Now, one of the things I really love about the Xperia setup here as well in its UI and design is that you have a few different options. If you want to just open this thing up and use it, they give you a basic mode in their different apps where you can just change it to basic, you can change it to auto, but then if you want to, you can click out of basic and go into a program mode, a shutter speed priority, a manual exposure mode. And having something like Photo Pro as a professional photographer is just a really nice way of going about this. It allows me to get on here and pick the settings that I want, pick the color tones and the shutter speeds and the ISOs and the white balance when I want to. But if I don't want to, I could also just toss this thing on auto and rock and roll like anything normal. The Xperia 1 Mark V also introduced a vertical interface. So if you're changing from, horizontal to vertical, the interface will change with you and allow you to access all of that stuff. And I just feel like the Video Pro and the Photo Pro apps are just so good. They allow you to access all of the stuff you would need. And as someone who enjoys being part of the image making process, obviously, it's just really nice to have something like that that feels really familiar to my regular Sony Alpha cameras, but also is just super intuitive and allows me to have way more control over my image. And in the more professional series of cameras, Sony is definitely known for its amazing autofocus. And the crazy thing is, the focus on the Xperia 1 Mark V is better than some of the pro grade cameras that I have owned over the years. It's super snappy. The time that I was monitoring, even myself, I could see the little face and eye detection thing going, so I just knew I was in focus. It captures my kids running towards me really quickly. It's just pretty phenomenal to have such a reliable autofocus on a mobile device. So having this with me for the last couple months, I've taken it all over the place. I've taken it with me to kids' birthday parties, on bike rides, when I take my kids out. Obviously, just having a great camera on a mobile device, that's the point, right? It's the camera that you want in your pocket when you don't carry your regular camera, right? But because this is kind of within the whole Sony Alpha world, the nice thing is it just fits more into my regular workflow because all of the coloring, all of the interface, all that kind of stuff is so similar to the Sony Alpha cameras that it just pairs all of my imagery together in a much better way, if that makes sense. And another thing that's just really cool about this is that it just pairs so well with those Sony Alpha cameras. You can use this as a dedicated monitor by actually using an HDMI cable to go straight in here, so you're getting a direct feed from the camera. It will also record that feed into here, which is pretty crazy. I've been using it as well as basically like a mobile remote, and the connection with the new Creators app is actually really good, and I have had zero issues with it. But the nice thing is you can either record the screen and see all the information on here for some behind the scenes stuff, or you can just use this as a camera itself, obviously. But the difference with this one is you're going to get similar colors to what your Sony Alpha camera is shooting on. So when you're using the Xperia 1 Mark V to do your behind the scenes video and whatnot, it's going to have that same color as the Sony Alpha cameras, which obviously is going to allow you to mix and match that footage and your stuff side by side a lot better. So overall, the Xperia 1 Mark V is a great content creation device on its own, and with all of its other monitoring and recording features, this makes this just a really good tool for anybody out there, whether you have a Sony Alpha camera or not. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, leave them in the comments down below. Thanks again to Xperia for sponsoring this video and letting me use this for the last couple months. So if you want to see more videos on Sony Alpha cameras, you can check that out up here. And if you want to watch a video that I did on the Xperia Pro I did a full wedding on that camera right here, and I will see you on one of those videos.